Night falls heavy and wet over the Caribbean. The sky is dark, split only by the glow of 1,000 lights from the massive deck of the USS George Washington, a mighty aircraft carrier slicing through the waves. Engines hum, radar spins, and sailors move with silent purpose. Far off, a different light flickers. Venezuelan patrol boats creep closer, sharp against the horizon, radios crackling with orders. Suddenly, jets roar from the carrier's deck. They leap into the night, engines screaming, lights blinking in the blackness. Venezuelan pilots climb into their own cockpits, hands trembling as they strap in. Both sides know the risks. One wrong move, and the world could change in an instant. The water below hides secrets. Submarines drift in the deep. On the surface, destroyers and supply ships form a moving city. All eyes watching, all hearts pounding. Venezuela's leader has thrown down a challenge. The US Navy does not back down. This is not a battle. Not yet. But it is a contest of nerves, signals, and raw power. The world watches, holding its breath. Why does this standoff matter? It's more than ships and planes. It's about the balance of power in a region full of tension. When big navies meet in small seas, mistakes can spark disaster. Every movement, every signal counts. A radio call, a jet's turn, or a captain's decision can mean peace or war. Caribbean waters are busy. Trade moves through. Many countries watch what happens here. If a fight starts, it could spread fast. Allies might join. Oil routes could close. The whole world could feel the shock. Signals are powerful. When Venezuela sent ships and planes toward the US carrier, they did more than show muscle. They tested how much the US would tolerate. Would the Americans back away? Would they shoot? Everyone waited for the answer. It's not just about guns. It's about messages. In this game, silence can speak as loudly as a missile. Why would a smaller nation like Venezuela risk so much? The answer begins at home. Venezuela's economy is in chaos. Hyperinflation eats away its savings. Stores stand empty. People wait in long lines for food and medicine. The government, led by President Nicolas Maduro, feels trapped. The world has turned its back. Sanctions cut Venezuela off from trade and money. Few allies remain. The government faces protests and unrest. Maduro needs to show strength to his people and his rivals. He wants to prove Venezuela is not afraid, so he turns to the sea. By challenging the US Navy, Maduro sends a bold message: we are still here. We are not weak. It is a gamble. Some hope it will rally the nation. Others fear it will bring disaster. Internationally, the move is risky, but for Maduro, it is a way to change the story. He bets that a show of defiance will buy him time. The first warnings came quietly. Venezuelan radar picked up the US carrier group moving north of its waters. Radio traffic grew tense. Venezuelan patrol boats moved closer, sometimes crossing into international lanes. On the American decks, officers watched every move, ready to respond. Venezuelan jets took off from coastal bases. They flew low, close to American ships. Pilots snapped photos. American fighters scrambled in response, keeping their distance but making their presence clear. On both sides, men and women felt the weight of history pressing down. One day, a Venezuelan patrol boat cut dangerously close to a US destroyer. The American captain ordered a sharp turn. Alarms blared, but no shots were fired. It was a signal. We see you, but we will not fire first. Each move was a test. Each test brought new risks. In the tight space of the Caribbean, there was little room for error. Then came the big move. The United States Navy made the carrier visible. Planes lined up on deck and sailors stood in formation. Helicopters spun their rotors, ready to launch. The world saw the message. We are here, and we are strong, Venezuela answered loudly. More patrol boats set out, and coastal radar stations tracked every American move. On state television, generals promised to defend the homeland. Jets flew low over the carrier, sometimes dipping their wings in a warning pass. The air, honestly, just crackled with tension. To American sailors, it felt like being under a microscope. Every shift, every launch was watched and measured. Venezuelan crews too felt the edge. They were outnumbered, outgunned, but determined to show resolve. The stage was set for something bigger, yet both sides hesitated, knowing what a single mistake could cost. The United States Navy's answer surprised some. There were no threats, no harsh warnings. Instead, there was calm. Orders flowed quietly, and training kicked in. The carrier group kept its course, moved with discipline, and avoided provocation. Sailors checked equipment and ran drills. Pilots sat ready but kept their jets just inside the lines. The message was strength, but not aggression. Radios sent clear, professional signals. "We are here, but we want no fight." Venezuela pushed, but the Americans did not snap. The United States Navy knows silence is sometimes the loudest signal. By not reacting with force, they raised the stakes. Everyone could see who was in control. This strategy was risky, but it worked. No one fired the first shot. The standoff held. Behind the ships and jets, there were real people. On the U.S. carrier, sailors wrote home about the stress. Some felt fear. They knew every watch could turn deadly in seconds. Still, they trusted their training. They leaned on each other for calm. Venezuelan pilots faced different pressures. Few had flown so close to an enemy this strong. Some thought of their families, waiting back in Caracas. Each flight could be their last. Yet, they did their jobs, hoping their courage would make a difference. Both sides saw the other's eyes through cockpit glass or across decks. There was respect, and sometimes a hint of fear. No one wanted to pull the trigger first. Everyone understood what was at stake. In the end, restraint won. The silence, the waiting, was harder than any battle. The standoff faded, quietly as it began. No treaty was signed, no grand speeches were made. The carrier moved on. Venezuelan ships returned to port. Life on shore went back to normal, but nothing was quite the same. For the U.S. Navy, the lesson was clear. Power is not just about weapons, but about control. Sometimes, doing less is more. Waiting, watching, and signaling can keep the peace when words fail. Venezuela learned too. It could stand up and be noticed, but the risks were real. One wrong signal could have sparked disaster. The world was reminded that silent tensions are sometimes the most dangerous. In the end, both sides stepped back. The world avoided a crisis, this time. What does this standoff teach us? Real power is not just about the biggest guns or the largest ships. It is about knowing when to show force and when to hold back. The world is full of small, silent risks. Not every challenge needs an answer in fire. Restraint is a form of strength. By staying calm, the U.S. Navy showed they could not be rattled. By not pushing too far, Venezuela avoided disaster. Both sides sent signals. Both sides listened. People often forget. Silence can be strategic. In this standoff, it spoke louder than explosions ever could. The lesson is simple. Sometimes peace is kept by those who refuse to act in anger. We should remember this. Not every standoff ends in war. Sometimes, it ends with a lesson. The world is full of silent, simmering standoffs. Some never make the news, but they carry real risks. When powers face each other in tense silence, anything can happen. It is easy to forget how close we can come to disaster. We must pay attention to these moments. We must ask our leaders to act with care. The lesson from the Caribbean is clear. Sometimes the most important battles are the ones no one ever fights. Let us remember the quiet power of restraint. Let us hope the next standoff ends with silence, not sorrow.